In this final video, I will highlight how inquiry-based learning is able to develop the students' critical thinking skills. To summarize this lecture so far, I have presented inquiry-based learning as an educational approach through which research-based learning can be realized. What I still want to say is that inquiry-based learning requires careful planning in order to be implemented effectively. For example, if students are asked to do forms of inquiry for which they are not ready, the deeper learning that inquiry-based learning has the potential for may then not occur. These teachers also need to develop ways of assessing students' success with their tasks of inquiry in order to be able to see whether their learning is actually progressing. That being said, I hope I have succeeded in sparking your interest in inquiry-based learning. If you are an educator, I encourage you to give inquiry-based learning a try so that your students can benefit from the advantages this form of teaching offers. And one of those benefits is that it is able to develop the students' critical thinking skills. And I already touched upon that a little in another video here. If you have seen all the videos in this lecture, I think you already have a good idea of how inquiry-based learning contributes to critical thinking. The fact that inquiry-based learning provides a task or a problem for the students to solve requires them to use their critical thinking skills to address the challenge they face in solving the task or the problem. Inquiry is a process, and as such, students need to reflect on this process while working on the task or problem at hand. For example, if they need to reflect on how they should go about the process, whether there are any assumptions guiding their choices, or whether they have managed to gather the right material. Thus, inquiry-based learning contributes to critical thinking by making students analytical, and a good teacher that uses inquiry-based learning will highlight this aspect of their learning process as well, making them into more effective critical thinkers by using inquiry-based in their inquiries. As I mentioned at the beginning of this lecture, inquiry-based learning is a concrete way that all subject areas can contribute to the development of students' critical thinking skills. I think this is a particularly important insight in relation to STEM subjects, as much of the literature on critical thinking tends to be written in a way that excludes learning in STEM. Regardless, one conclusion that can be drawn from this lecture is that we do not always need to have sessions where we actually practice critical thinking. Much of what we do in higher education already includes training in critical thinking, at least, and it takes the form of critical inquiry, as it does in inquiry-based learning. I would also like to point out that there is evidence that inquiry-based learning helps develop students' critical thinking skills. Indeed, several studies that have tested this have shown that inquiry-based learning strategies in teaching helps to increase students' critical thinking skills. Furthermore, such results can be demonstrated in a variety of subject areas, suggesting that inquiry-based learning as a general teaching strategy contributes to students' critical thinking skills. So all those teachers who want to work on developing students' critical thinking skills, inquiry-based learning is a good option for you. That said, it is not certain that just using inquiry-based learning is enough. One study that I read suggests that a more purposeful teaching of critical thinking is able to contribute to students' critical thinking skills more than a mere passive teaching strategy, where critical thinking becomes a consequence of inquiry-based learning. So, inquiry-based learning, according to that study, can only go so far. But if you want to make critical thinking a special concern in your teaching, you need a more powerful strategy than relying on inquiry-based learning alone. At the very least, the use of inquiry-based learning should be combined with more purposeful teaching of critical thinking. One suggestion is to gradually introduce different tasks and problems that require and stimulate inquiry, but to stop during this process of inquiry at different stages to reflect with the students on their process of inquiry, with a particular focus of critically evaluating how they went about solving the task or the problem. But, however, regardless of how you do it, how you assign your inquiry-based learning tasks, it is clear that inquiry-based learning can become an important part of the toolbox when developing students' critical thinking skills. Therefore, it should also be recognized as one of the ways in which we educate for critical thinking. So, I hope you found this video lecture interesting and helpful. Thanks for watching and take care.